All right, I think we're ready to begin. So I'd like to call this meeting of the Joint Councils to order and welcome everybody who's here present at Cubic in the town of Amherst, and also those of you who are out there in virtual land. Welcome and thank you. Before we begin, just a couple of things. Remind everyone to try and stay muted when you are not speaking to prevent feedback. I'd like for us to use the raise hand question on your Zoom system so that everyone will know where they are in line, and I'll follow those. And I do want to let everyone know in regard to asking questions and giving presentations that we are going to be fairly rigid about the 30 minutes allotted to each of our 4 items on the agenda. So that being said, the agenda has been circulated. Would someone care to make a motion to approve the agenda? Deputy Mayor Davidson, Councillor Baker, thank you. Are there any objections? All right, then their agenda is approved. So we'll begin with an update from the Cumberland Business Connector, and welcome to Jonathan McClellan, and you have the floor, sir.
Okay, so we're going to do this jointly. Susan McIsaac, the chair of her board, is going to lead off, and then I'll follow on. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you for having us here. We're very pleased to be able to present. And I'm going to look at you rather than the screen, sorry. Very pleased to be here presenting to you and to talk to all of the councils about the connector, to tell you a little bit about us. I'm going to give you some history, and then Jonathan is going to go into the activities that we're involved in right now. If we'll move to the next slide. We have our mission on the next slide, and I'll read it to you. We start all of our meetings reading our mission just to remind us why we're there, what the purpose is, and what the organization wants to do. So the Cumberland Business Connector is a business-led, not-for-profit organization. Our focus is to foster a strong business environment in order to strengthen Cumberland County by removing barriers to business and connecting businesses with the resources they need to be successful. The key things for us in that, I think, are that it's business-led. That's very important to us, that this is an initiative that came from the business community. We recognize that there are, it takes all of the types of organizations in the county to affect economic development, but we really felt there was a role for business. And then the other piece is the connecting, that we see ourselves as identifying areas where steps are needed and making the connection so things can happen. Okay. So the connector began in boardroom in downtown Amherst in about 2015. Shortly after the Ivany report came out. This echo is bad. Am I driving everybody nuts with an echo? No, it's okay. And one of the comments in the Ivany report was that everyone needed to step up, including business. And about half a dozen local business people took that seriously. And we started to meet and talk and say, what can we do? How can we make a difference? How can we help Cumberland County broader than our own businesses? So we met weekly and tried to talk to as many business people of all levels, talked with many government representatives as we could in the county to get an idea of what their thoughts were, what was needed, how we could be effective, and how we could structure ourselves and do something for the benefit of Cumberland County and business. Along the way, we were connected with Engage Nova Scotia. At that time, they were doing some meetings around the county, around the province, I mean, and they came to the county a couple of times. Very helpful. One organized a meeting with businesses in Cumberland County to identify some priorities, and another, the Stepping Up conference, to encourage people to come out and to participate and in various ways within the county, but one of those was economic development. In order to, we realized quite quickly, we did some activities on our own, just as a loose volunteer group, but realized that in order to have significant impact, we needed to have a more formal structure. So we incorporated as a not-for-profit, in 2016, and we hired Jonathan as our inaugural CEO he started with us in June of 2017. And that really made a difference in us being able to formalize our activities and start to identify projects that we felt we could undertake to be a benefit to the businesses in the county. Talk a little bit about our governance, because it's important to us to be properly governed, but we also understand that as our funding partners, it's very important to you that the accountability is there and that our structure is such that it'll permit the accountability that's needed. So we are a membership-driven, not-for-profit organization. Our membership is open to all businesses in Cumberland County. And from our members, we select our board of directors. And the two key governance components are the audit committee to oversee our audited financial statements, and the liaison and oversight committee. And the liaison and oversight committee, as you can see on the next slide with the structure, that's where we have formal input from each of the municipal units. So the CAOs of Amherst, Oxford, and the municipality of the County of Cumberland are represented on that, or their delegates are represented on that committee. And we have a formal agreement in place as to the flow of information between the board of directors and the liaison and oversight committee. And then we have the audit committee that also has a member of our board of directors on it.
So, Susan, if I could just interrupt for a second, just remind the participants, if they're not speaking, to mute their microphones. I think a couple of people that have just joined the meeting may not be on mute. So I think that'll help with the echo. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah. Our board of directors is 10 people. I'm the chair. I have chaired since the beginning of 2015. The other executive members are Michael Stack and Dave McNairn. And other board members are David Hoffman and Kevin Toth, Don McCormick, Lacey Fisher, Andrew Cameron, Mary McPhee, and Bill Casey. So we have had some turnover in our board membership since we began, and we have been staggering our turnover to try and ensure we've got the continuity as we get going, get our feet under us, but yet bring in new ideas and try to get representation from as many sizes and types of business throughout the county as we can. Our formal committees are the executive and the nominating committee, finance committee, an HR committee, and a communications committee. Jonathan is our chief executive officer, and he was the chief cook and bottle washer for a long time, but we now have 3 staff members. So we hired a summer student who stayed on with us in a full-time research position, and we've recently hired a business development officer. And then anything else we need for support for Jonathan and his crew or for the board is done on a contract basis. You may be familiar with the regional economic networks, or the REN. The RENs, we describe ourselves as REN-like, but we're very proud of the fact that we are not RENs, that we are unique. The business community and the municipal government community at the time the RENs model was being put out, agreed that that wasn't the best suited for Cumberland County, that its mandate was too broad, that we needed to focus more on Cumberland County as an economic unit in order to develop our county. So we incorporated under a different act, and we structured ourselves somewhat differently. We tried to pick what we felt were the best pieces of the REN structure that would help, and would certainly have a good relationship with the RENs, and Jonathan is welcome to any of their activities and participates and contributes to them as any other member. But our governance is slightly different. And we have more autonomy as a board from the business community. Again, going back to my comment early on, we understand the importance of the roles of each of the players, but we felt it very important that the business community take full responsibility for their role. And therefore the board is appointed from our membership, and we have our own audit committee. So similar to a REN, but not exactly. Okay, I think that's a little more information on the slide, but I've covered the things that were important. I think that I felt, and we as a board would like you to know, but we certainly encourage questions, we encourage dialogue, and we hope to have we want to ensure that we fit within what you see the needs for Cumberland County are, and that we are each fulfilling our own role. We hope in future to have the mayors attend a meeting, attend one of our board meetings to get to know us more as well, and so we can understand what your priorities are and you can better understand our priorities. So I'll take questions certainly if there are any now. If not, I'll turn it over to Jonathan and we can do the questions at the end.
Any questions for Sue?
Your Worship, just one question, Sue, Councillor Baker. I noticed when I read it over, you got to be a member in order to be elected to the board. You just can't come out of off the street unless you're a belong a member, right? That's how you elect your board.
Yes, the membership is only $10 though, and it's simply a matter of completing a membership form and paying the $10 fee. So we do have a membership list, but we wanted to make it accessible, but we also wanted there to be some structure to it.
How many members do you have?
About 140, I believe, at the moment.
140? Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you very much. All right, I don't see any hands, so we'll move along, please.
Okay, if we look at the priorities of the Business Connector, it's to focus on a strong business environment with the end goal of strengthening the Cumberland region. To do this, we remove barriers to businesses and connect businesses with the resources they need to be successful. So when we approach economic development, our approach is that we're working with what we have. We're not trying to be something that we're not. We're building on our strengths, identifying our weaknesses and what can be changed. We want to partner with others and do not reinvent the wheel. If we can do it easy, if we can collaborate, if we can work together, we're going to get a lot further. Next slide, please. So when we look at how we support existing businesses, which is one of our 3 priority areas, during COVID, one of the key things that we did was try to keep up with weekly updates of every federal and provincial support that was being created or modified and get that out to the communities. We work closely with the municipal economic development officers and with the chambers of commerce. They pushed this out to their lists. Now we know there's some businesses got it 3 or 4 times, but we felt that that was more important than not getting it out to our businesses. So we tried to be that funnel. We developed a spreadsheet that here's the program, here's 2 sentences about it, here's the link if it applies to you. So we tried to do that. We worked with our partners throughout the region, also Westmoreland County, in ways that we could support businesses. For example, we had a restaurant industry representatives joined us for meetings as to give advice to businesses how to adapt and how to handle during the early stage of COVID. We've also collaborated extensively with the Truro Colchester Partnership. We collaborate with them on a very regular basis. And we worked with them in ACOA this past fall to bring in consultants who worked with 24 individual tourism businesses to try and give them concrete, specific things that they could do to help adapt their business moving forward. An ongoing project of ours is a business directory. It's available online as well as in print. There is close to 1,000 businesses in the county and in the towns of Amherst and Oxford that are listed in that business directory. Emily keeps that updated, usually on a weekly basis. If we find a new business or a business closes, we update that. We've also worked to develop a spreadsheet that has just a listing of industrial and commercial lands available, because every now and again, we will get a call from NSBI saying, we're talking to a manufacturer, they need 40,000 square feet, 3-phase power, whatever it is, and we want to have at least something that we can send to them if we have anything that's suitable for them. Businesses, again, could ask for that information. We've held a lot of workshops over the last 3.5 years on many different subjects, but marketing, social media marketing, branding is probably the most common one that we've had. Had a number of those. We've had workshops in exporting, an agricultural symposium. We've had focus groups with specific commodity groups. In the town of Oxford, we held a supper series workshops over a couple winters with small businesses where people could leave their work, come grab a slice of pizza, sit down, have a presentation for an hour. And here in this room about 1.5 years ago, we had a really good session with the Manufacturers Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium, Acadia University, and we put on a design thinking workshop, which was to help the manufacturing businesses attract more human resources. We will be repeating that in an online format in the upcoming months. We've worked with the Office of Immigration, connecting them with local building contractors to meet some of the labor shortage. So starting last fall, we've collaborated with our partners on these all along, but we decided to formalize it. So ourselves, the Municipal Economic Development Officers, the Amherst and Erie Chamber of Commerce, CBDC Cumberland, we come together and we have an informal working group to hold, to have these workshops under the brand Mind Your Business Cumberland. The next workshop is 8:30 tomorrow morning. For anyone who's in the tourism industry, you're welcome to join in. We have a unique program that we developed in-house, the Cumberland Business Accelerator Program. It's sort of bring in a consultant to work with the business on an ongoing basis. So more of almost like a job coach as well as a business development officer. We started this 1.5 years ago with the idea of bringing a handful of businesses in, having a consultant work with them every 2 to 3 weeks for 18 months to dig into their business. Where's the gaps? What's holding them back? And again, this was geared towards high growth potential businesses. It's worked very well. We've had very good feedback. So starting in January of this year, we expanded that from a day-a-week position to a full-time position. And we want to identify short-term needs and help them, and then get into more of the structural and strategic issues. Go to the next slide. One of our priorities was advocate for businesses. So here's a few examples of how we've done this. With the forestry sector, we worked with Athol Forestry Co-op, local MLAs, a number of the councillors and mayors in the room, and we brought together 1 year ago in January about 120 land that industry to try and figure out how we could help the industry moving forward. Overnight, they lost a market that was 40% of the entire wood harvest in Nova Scotia. So we formed this Cumberland Forest Advisory Committee, CFAC. Some of you are on that committee, and have developed a strategic plan called the Future of Forestry in Cumberland County. We were the only region of the province to actually work together as an entire supply chain. And others have looked to us from Western Nova Scotia to Cape Breton to see what we're doing and are starting to copy what we did 1 year ago. So some of the ideas that came out of this strategic plan have been adopted at the provincial level, including the creating of the Timber Loan Board, which had been in existence decades ago, but had become dormant. So that's, if someone's wanting to get new equipment to do selective harvesting more effectively, there is now a financing program in place under the Farm Loan Board. Next slide, please. So as we work with businesses and advocate for businesses, one of the programs that the province had brought in place a few years ago was a productivity rebate program for large businesses. Nova Scotia Business Inc. administers that, and it requires businesses to invest between $2 and $15 million, and then they will get a rebate of 25%. And this is not just on a building, it is how can they become more productive, more efficient, and more viable long-term. We requested that they lower that threshold. It was too large for a number of our businesses. I'm not saying we're the only person that asked for this. I'm sure we weren't. But last year, after COVID happened and they were starting to support other business and make other investments, NSBI created a new program for businesses in that $500,000 to $2 million range. So more of our medium-sized and smaller businesses could qualify for putting in place these productivity enhancements. When the municipality of Cumberland was doing their land use bylaws, we spent quite a bit of time reviewing those draft bylaws, provided feedback. There were a number of unintended barriers to business in the initial draft. They were very responsive, and a lot of those were changed. Again, there was lots of groups providing feedback, but some of these changes weren't meant to impede businesses, but it just, the way it was worded, it did. So we were able to take some time up front and hopefully prevent barriers to business growth in the future. With the border issues, we've worked especially very closely with the Chamber of Commerce to try and advocate for the free flow of people across our border with New Brunswick. We proposed last spring a Cumberland-Westmoreland bubble. It wasn't approved, but we did ask. And we've also advocated on behalf of the sinkhole in Oxford for the drilling along the highway to ensure that the integrity of that was in place. Our third pillar is developing a job-ready workforce. We've done a lot with that. We've done a number of youth entrepreneurship competitions. We've had 15 winners over 2 years. And we started a high school career fair. We had that in Pugwash. We were going to roll that across the county, and then COVID put a stop to that for a while. You can go online to our website. We have a student resource page where we have a number of relevant information for students, for teachers, and for parents, including listings of post-secondary resources that are within driving distance of Cumberland County. Developing a job-ready workforce, one of the things that we wanted to do was to show people what variety of work there was available, good jobs in the region. And one way that we did that was we started a series of business workshops. Waldale, Emerson Packaging, Doug Bragg Enterprises. The last one we did was Ski Wentworth. We are wanting to show people that there just isn't one job within that building's walls, but there's sales, there's marketing, there's engineering, there's maintenance, there's production, accounting, maybe even legal. And so there is a huge opportunity for people to actually stay in our own communities and get a good career right here. We're also hoping that we will be using this in our workforce attraction campaign as well. So one of the things that we're working on and will be coming out in the next few weeks is a regional marketing relocation and retention program. This is to encourage people to live in the Cumberland region. We have great small towns, rural communities. That's of high priority right now in the COVID world. And even after that, we believe that people's priorities will have changed and they will see the benefit of having more space and more outdoor activities. We want to attract younger workers here to fill our labor force gap. 30 years ago, economic development was all about, we need to bring more businesses here because we've got so many unemployed people. We have a large manufacturer in this county that had to go to New Brunswick to set up a second factory because we had a shortage of workers and they couldn't fill it here. And so the job vacancy rate has been increasing. The largest group of our population is 60 to 64 years old. Many more people are retiring, and there's only half as many people in the 20 to 24-year-old age bracket. So we have to attract people here, or else our businesses will not be able to survive here. So we want to grow the population, which will also stabilize your tax base with more homes and more people shopping in local communities. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Do we have questions for Jonathan or Sue that people may have thought of? Please raise your hand on the, do you know the format here? Go ahead, Councillor Baker, but would use the raise hand on the Zoom program so everyone knows who's in line. Thank you. You go ahead, Councillor Baker.
My understanding, there's approximately a couple hundred jobs available in Cumberland County that they can't fill because they can't find the people. And the other question, have you stepped into, I know years ago they were talking about going into the schools, grade 11 and grade 12. I think I read something in there to show the young people what we have in our community, because so many people in our community has no idea what's even in Amherst in Cumberland County. So have you approached that?
Yes, we actually had hired on a part-time basis a coordinator to go into the schools, to work, to collaborate with them, to break down silos between the education world and the business world. And this career fair was one of the initiatives. We were going to take a bunch of grade 5 students last spring to NSCC, show them the programs that were available, get them to build a birdhouse or something in the lab there. And we've got a lot of those things that for a year we've put on hold, but we want to get back doing that. And part of our focus on developing all these videos is to be able to take and develop content to show people that if you want to do graphic design, you could work at Emerson Packaging, the full-time graphic design artist. You want to do sales and marketing, you might find a job at a car dealership in Amherst, or you might find a job at a clothing store. So we are doing that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, I see Councillor Sheila Christie.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a couple of comments. Having worked with you, Jonathan, and through the connector with various projects, I wanted to say how valuable the business structure you guys have is. I know that we've used it extensively through the physician recruitment and retention, as well as the nursing programs, and it's a very valuable tool for other individual groups and things that we're all involved with, that is there to kind of help bring people, and once they're settling here, to understand what this area has. And not only from that, it's also good as a business tool, so that when you know, in my other hat, my other world, you're looking for other things that you can do locally. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I know firsthand, working with the forestry industry, the effort that has been put in by the connector. And I just want to make sure that we're always working hand in hand with the municipalities, so that we're not working at cross purposes. And I just want to make sure that that connection, I know that the CAOs are on your board and that sort of thing, or involved with your board, but I know that that's very important, so that we're not at cross purposes when it comes to tourism or business development and those kinds of things. So I think it's very important to make sure that we keep that connection a two-way street at all times. But I think it's great work, and I know that I've seen the value for sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
absolutely ensuring that the gaps are filled and there's no overlap, that they're all pulling in the same direction. All of the, yeah.
Thank you. Next, I see Councillor Leon Landry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Susan and Jonathan, for the great presentation. You mentioned a number of adaptations that the business community has gone through to deal with COVID. I'm just wondering what barriers you guys are anticipating as we move into lesser and lesser restrictions, and as borders open up, and as we anticipate continued influx of people in this area. What are the challenges with more liberal travel?
I think like, if you're referring to the Atlantic bubble, for example, if that comes to place, that is going to be a huge benefit to all our residents and our businesses. We are so integrated with Sackville and Port Elgin that having those people able to flow back and forth here is key. I talked to a business a couple of years ago in Parsboro, and they said most of their business came from Moncton, more from Moncton than Halifax. So there's a lot of business opportunity. You know, I think one of the big challenges for a lot of our retail and tourism businesses is, can they survive long enough to be profitable? That is going to be a big challenge, and there's no simple solution to it, but we are working as the municipal economic development officers to try and do what we can.
Thank you. I think the next question comes from Councillor Dale Fothrop.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I want to thank you for picking up the Ibony Challenge. It really was important, and I can see that the work you're doing is really integral to our development. I just wanted to pass on an educational opportunity for you that I happened to run across recently. I believe it's in Nunavut. What they did is that they brought in professionals from the community to do a day's in service with the seniors. And the seniors went to different tables and picked up information on a trade or a business they wanted to go into, and it gave them an approximate annual salary. And then seated around the rest of the gymnasium were car dealers, banks, mortgages, all that sort of thing. And the students then went with their annual income and sat down and talked with various business people and saw how much it was going to cost them to live and to get the things that they wanted. So it was a real eye opener for the students, because they then realized, oh, $50,000 a year. It doesn't go very far. And it was really an important lesson for them to see. So something you might try.
There is a similar program being done by Junior Achievement, and a number of us went into the grade 9 class, I believe it was. It was like a morning session. And again, yes, you're a plumber, here's your paycheck. You're working in the pizza store, here's your paycheck. And then had people do a budget of what they thought they were going to spend. And it was eye-opening for many of them, thinking they're going to spend $1,000 a month on food, and then looking at what their paycheck was, it didn't leave a lot.
All right, I think we have time for one last question. That goes to Mayor Murray Scott, please.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Susan and Jonathan. Really appreciate the information sharing tonight. I have two questions. One is around, you mentioned, Jonathan, about the website. I'm wondering if you're able to track the number of hits you receive on the Business Connector website. If you are, is there any way to tell where those originate from, or is it just generic? And the second thing is, you mentioned NSBI in your request from them. Do you receive any request for information either regionally or even nationally? And if you do, what type of information would they be looking for the area? Thank you.
Okay, we can track the site visits, how many people come to our website, and what pages they spend time on. We do have that capability. I don't have it at my disposal right now, the information. I can see if I can get that as to if we know geographically where they're coming from. I believe we can. We also can track the number of people that view our videos, business videos. Some of those are 40,000 and up. On the NSBI, the type of questions, as you know, Nova Scotia Business Inc. is the main business attraction organization in the province. And they have people out trying to recruit businesses to the region. So what we sometimes get is a call like, hey, there's a company that's kicking the tires to see about setting up a call center or setting up a manufacturing plant. They need 20,000 square feet of office space, or 40,000, or they're looking for development land along the highway, or that type of thing. It isn't frequent, but it is several times a year we would get that type of a request directly from them. Again, I know sometimes businesses, they approach the municipalities first, and that's great. And I know Tamara and I often discuss this type of thing back and forth if they get a request, or we get a request, or with the county.
Just to add on to the website, we've deliberately put a lot of facts and figures about the labor force and the business opportunities in Cumberland County on the website, so that someone interested in the county interested in relocating or starting or expanding a business in the county can get a lot of information from the site itself.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That was great. And we'll move on then to our next presentation. And I would ask if Councillor Sheila Christie might introduce the next presenter, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Presenting next is Leslie Fleming, who is the Senior Account Director with M5 Marketing Communications. Leslie is the staff lead from M5 and who's working on our tourism brand, marketing strategy, and website project for the Cumberland region. Leslie will be joining us by Zoom this evening, and she'll be providing us with an overview of the new Cumberland Region tourism brand. As a member of the Cumberland Region Marketing Committee, I'm very excited to turn this over to Leslie now so we can share this with all of you.
Thank you, Sheila. So 2 disclaimers. They are 2 and 4 years old, and they are in the room next door. So if you hear any wild noises, I apologize in advance. So I'm going to share my screen here. And let me know if you are able to view. You should see Cumberland Region brand identity. Yes, thumbs up. Okay, perfect. So you will notice here that this is from October 2020, because we have actually been working on this project with Michelle for quite a while now, and we're very excited to share what we are doing and what we will be bringing to the public in the next few weeks with this new Cumberland brand and website. Are you able to see this next slide? It's giving me a message that it's not sharing. Just want to make sure. Michelle, are you able to see that?
Leslie, it's not moving.
It's not moving. Okay. Let's see. I might not be able to do full screen mode. Let's try it without full screen. Okay, can you see that? Brand architecture. Okay, so yeah, I guess I can't do full screen mode on this share, but you'll still get the essence of the presentation. So what we wanted to look at with the Cumberland region is how we can build a brand, build a visual identity that will be compelling to people and have them want to come and spend time in the Cumberland region. So our task was really to have that one master brand, so that Cumberland brand, and then the 3 sub brands of the regions that fall underneath that. So we really wanted to look at what did the Cumberland region have to offer people? And that is the hidden gems, the unique geology, unexpected indulgences, that history and culture, and the real adventure that's available in this diverse geography within the county. So our brand positioning is for people who enjoy discovering unique places. Cumberland is one of Nova Scotia's best kept secrets because it unfolds such a diverse range of experiences. Our personality has a sense of mystique, is inviting, is self-assured, but always authentic. And the brand promises that Cumberland has untold opportunities to discover. So again, master brand is Cumberland, with our sub brands being the Fundy Tides region, Northumberland Shores region, and Wentworth Valley region. So this is the visual identity of the Cumberland region. So you can see it has Cumberland, Wonders Within. And Wonders Within was chosen to really bring that sense of mystique around the Cumberland region. So there are such incredible experiences that you can have in the region, but people will be surprised at all they can discover within Cumberland. So that's the Wonders Within tagline. And then the word mark itself and the icon, I think, is really important to focus on, because what we've done is added these 3 little waves, and they are not haphazardly thrown on there. They actually all mean something distinct. So you'll see the orange represents the Fundy Tides region having a kind of peaked wave. Then we have the Wentworth region, which is more of the mountainous zigzag green. And then the Northumberland Shores, a softer blue wave. So those 3 unique geographies all encompassed within the one region. These are our sub brands. So again, leaning on these 3 distinct colors, the orange, the green, and the blue. And these can be positioned many different ways. And you'll see, I'll give you a sneak peek of the website here in one moment, if I have Michelle's blessing to do so, to kind of let you see how that gets incorporated. But it just allows each of these sub brands and each of these regions to have their own sense of pride and identity within that master Cumberland region, because we know how diverse it is and how there is so much to offer within the area. We want those vibrant, lively colors that really just kind of call to people to learn more, to find out what there is to experience and the wonders within Cumberland. You also see here that we have an option where we can display the Nova Scotia location here for people to call these out and tie it back to having that awareness that these are part of Nova Scotia, because we know that Tourism Nova Scotia has a strong platform, a lot of visitors to that site. And so we're also leveraging some of that visibility to bring that into our own brand and just tie that all together for everybody, that we've got Fundy, Wentworth, Northumberland, all part of Cumberland, and all part of Nova Scotia. So these are just some mock-ups of different potential treatments of what you could do with branding like this. So the Wonders Within, this could be, a pamphlet, a Discover More kind of doers and dreamers type of guide. These could be individual postcards, just ways to incorporate these logos and call more attention to these regions. You'll also notice that within each of the individual region, the individual line is slightly different. So we have our Fundy, nice kind of peaked waves, our Wentworth, more mountainous zigzag, and then our Cumberland soft waves in there in the white and the colored versions. And then this is just kind of fun, an example of what you could do with this in terms of swag and branding and putting those logos on places where they would have lots of visibility. I think everybody would want one of those hats and one of those water bottles. So it's just a great way to visualize how this brand can really start to gain traction and gain recognition within the community and within the tourism sector to really differentiate Cumberland as a destination for people and not just a drive-through region. So that is the brand identity. Did you want to do some questions now, or did you want to take a quick peek at the website and then do questions?
Leslie, I think we have lots of time. Let's do the quick peek of the website first.
Okay, great. Yeah, I want to be mindful to stay well within my half an hour and potentially get you ahead of schedule. So are you able to see this? Do you see the website yet? I might need to switch again. Always fun sharing with one screen. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so Cumberland, this is our website. This is a sneak peek, not yet live. Please do not take screenshots of this. It is not yet ready to go to the public, but what you are seeing here is our actual like functioning development site. So we've broken this down in a way that's very similar to all best practices of travel and tourism websites. And one of the great things that we've been able to do is to leverage the feed from Tourism Nova Scotia of the listings and all of the different businesses in the region. So by leveraging our relationship with Tourism Nova Scotia and pulling that information, we're actually able to pull the latest and greatest information right from the Tourism Nova Scotia website for the relevant businesses into this website. So you'll see that we land on our nice, big, beautiful hero image. And this actually is split into a slider with the 3 different regions. So we have Fundy Tides, Wentworth, and Northumberland. All of these images right now are for placement only, so they're not necessarily the final locked in image, but they should give you an idea of the overall look and feel. So we call out the sub-region, a nice big title to let people know what they're looking at, and then a little bit of enticing intro text. So for this one, we have walk the ocean floor, explore ancient rock formations, and hike mountain cliffs, all while experiencing Nova Scotia hospitality. And then each of these would take you deeper into the section, which I will do in one moment. And then again, this is still the dev site, so you're not seeing final content here. But here we have discover the wonders within Cumberland region. This would allow us to bring some specific experiences or businesses up onto the page, or also to call out a general bucket of experiences like beaches or dining right up near the top of the page. As we scroll down, this is where we can experience and explore the different regions. So you'll see here, we have the rollover effect, which hopefully you can see. Last time that didn't work. But each individual panel highlights and activates as you roll over it. And then that would take you deeper into the site to that individual section of the site. We then have discover places by interest. So if you want to know about eating and drinking or hiking or arts and culture, these will all take you to landing pages where we pull in the listings from those sections. And then you may also be interested in, so again, just Lorem Ipsum here right now, not the final content, but this will be pulling in listings from any of those great businesses in the Cumberland region that we want to show on the homepage. These are also fully manageable and editable, so these can be changed at any time. And then as we get into the footer, We have our Stay Connected, all of our information. And then we are also driving email subscriptions and signups so that we can start to build out a database of email subscribers, which we will be able to market to in the future with destination specific material, whether that's promotions, special events. The sky's the limit as far as what can go into those emails, but it's a very, very useful thing to have as a tourism body, to have that list of email addresses for people that you can continue to market to as a destination. So if we go into the top navigation here, one example I'll show you is the actual Fundy Tides region. And then this takes us into a nice big hero image, and then a description of the region, just a little bit more copy so that we're making sure we have our SEO, our search engine optimization, the terms in there that will allow these pages to be found organically through search engines. And then right into our experiences. So this will show the different businesses that are available in the Fundy Tides region. That may be hotels, dining establishments, different tourism establishments across this region, and bring those right into the page so that people are able to search by interest, but also by geographic region. So again, here, if you wanted to just search more by your specific interest, you're able to loop through that way. And then you may also be interested in, again, at the bottom of the page. So one thing to keep in mind here is that on these pages, we never want to give any users a dead end. So we always keep them moving through the flow. So even if they've seen the basics about Fundy Tides, we still want to say, maybe you're interested in this, maybe you're interested in that, and just keep them on that journey until they find exactly what they're looking for, and hopefully book with one of those businesses. And then the last thing I will call out for everybody is the COVID-19 banner at the top of the page. So this is something that is strongly recommended for all businesses right now, but especially tourism businesses, which are impacted by our travel restrictions, that we do have a page here that gives people just the highlights of what they need to know around safety and COVID-19 in Cumberland. This is from government communications and materials, so this is all accurate. But the other thing that we're doing here is we are not trying to be the ultimate authority on Nova Scotia's stance on travel. So we are linking back to FAQs, Cumberland specific restrictions from novascotia.ca, and just general Nova Scotia coronavirus data, so that that information is all in one place for people. The great thing about this banner as well is that when that day finally comes that COVID-19 is no longer a concern, this can also be used for any other type of messaging that we want to bring to the forefront of the site, whether that's a special event that's happening or some other type of alert. We have a lot of flexibility in what we can do with that section. So I think that is kind of the sneak peek that we wanted to run through. Michelle, were there any other sections or questions that you wanted me to touch on while we're looking at the site? Or do we want
to thanks, Leslie. I think you covered it really well.
Very welcome. So questions?
That's a very exciting presentation, ladies. So we'll take a little time for questions if there are any from the floor. Deputy Mayor Hal Davidson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Pretty exciting stuff to actually see that's getting put in place. I'm just wondering if there's any consideration that's being given for individuals with accessibility issues. A lot of the three particular areas that are being promoted, there's a lot of active type of activities, I guess. Is there anything in terms of accessibility that's being identified? And the second part of my question, in the actual final version of this site, will it be more diversified in terms of the individuals that we have that are more representative of the individuals that live in this area?
Thank you. That is a great series of questions. So the accessibility I can answer on two fronts. So first is the actual accessibility of the website itself. When we're building these things, we do build them in mind people with any visual impairments or cognitive disabilities, that they can still use and understand and engage with this website. So that has certainly been something that we've factored into the actual building of the website experience. In terms of accessibility of the physical experiences in the region, we do have the ability under experiences to create pages that are whatever we want them to be. So if certain businesses or listings are more accessible or better optimized for somebody that has a mobility impairment or any type of accessibility issues, we can consolidate those in any way, shape, or form that we want. So for the launch, I don't think that there is an accessibility page planned, but given how flexible and easy it is to use the site, we could absolutely put one together that highlights the accessible experiences. And then in terms of your question around diversity, we are somewhat at the mercy of what is in our Tourism Nova Scotia database for images. There is certainly a mind to diversity when we're casting those photo shoots, but they're, as a general problem across all marketing materials in all sections of the world, there's often not as great of a selection of diverse people represented, but we do have photo shoots planned for the summer for a lot of these locations, and making sure that we cast for diversity in the talent that we select will absolutely be the top of mind, and something that the Cumberland team, Michelle and her team, will have final say on, making sure that the right people are reflected in the images that really showcase the area in the best way possible.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who has something they'd like to ask about? Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Leslie, for the presentation. I was just wondering if there's a set plan for how this is going to roll out in terms of getting that website out, or signs, or any of that sort of strategy, the t-shirts and hats and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a pretty solid marketing plan to put behind this. There's some dollars behind it, and there is a strategy of how this will roll out to market. With any site like this, where it's brand new, we're not replacing an existing site. This is a completely new entity. So we'll be rolling out explorecumberland.ca. Once it is fully vetted and everybody feels like it's 100% ready to go, then we start to put the marketing dollars behind it on social platforms like Facebook, on our GDN Google Display Network, so that accesses over 2 million sites with very targeted demographics as well. We know exactly who we're going after with this type of website. So there's been a lot of thought and process put into that. And then other tactics like out-of-home marketing, we will probably roll out with in a few years from now. We're not starting really aggressively with anything outside of Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada. But then as time progresses, and hopefully as COVID slows down our marketing efforts, we do have a 2 to 3 year marketing plan to get the word out about this.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands up. Is there anyone who has a question? Before we move on, I don't see anyone. All right. Well, thank you very much. Very exciting.
Thank you for your time.
And we'll move on to the next presentation, the joint CED strategy. And that would be Tamara Porter and Michelle Byers, please.
Thank you. My name is Tamara Porter, and I am the Business Development Officer for the Town of Amherst. Together with Michelle Byers, Manager of Community Economic Development from the municipality, and Jonathan from the Cumberland Business Connector, we will be presenting our Community Economic Development Strategy for the Cumberland region. We've been working on the development of this strategy for the past 18 months. This is a draft strategy for you to review and provide us with your feedback. An outline of today's presentation will include an overview of each of the 4 pillars that this strategy focuses on: economy, population, quality of life, and community capacity, followed by a summary of key points to take away. Then at the end, we will open up the floor for questions and comments. Economic development versus community economic development. Traditional economic development focuses on retaining, expanding, and attracting businesses, aiming to increase number of businesses and job creation. Community economic development considers the full spectrum of economic development and how it relates to community, focusing on creating vibrant, strong, sustainable local economies. CED still focuses on business retention and expansion while recognizing many other factors that come to play when considering the sustainability of our local economy. This includes improving the quality of life for residents, creating communities where people want to live and do business. The last joint CED strategy was developed between the town of Amherst and the municipality in 2014. There was no Cumberland Business Connector at this time, and most of the strategy was complete and needed a refresh. The focus of this strategy was business support, tourism, demographics, and community capacity. Our current strategy still reflects these pillars, with tourism being discussed under our economy section and demographics under population. We've added quality of life to represent community health and well-being. The Cumberland region boasts modern healthcare and educational facilities, vibrant retail and cultural sectors, a diverse agricultural industry, excellent manufacturing facilities, and high entrepreneurial spirit. Declining population, low labor force participation, high poverty rates, and an aging population are some of the factors creating challenges and having negative impacts in our region. Our CED approach recognizes the importance of healthy residents and a strong economy in order to be a sustainable region. Creating community well-being, supporting a job-ready workforce, providing quality community infrastructure, and creating economic opportunities play a key role in attracting new people, new investment, and a healthier demographic. This highlights our focus throughout this strategy. The economy section supports, just back up one, Kim, sorry. Just an overview of our 4 pillars. The economy section supports business retention and expansion, business attraction, and new business, creating a job-ready workforce. Population focuses on increasing the population in the Cumberland region. Quality of life relates to increasing the overall health and living standards of our residents, developing community infrastructure, implementing placemaking projects, and increasing access to technology. The last pillar, community capacity, focuses on working with individuals, communities to develop community-specific plans and initiatives. Now I'm going to pass it over to Jonathan as he will talk more about the economy section.
When we look at the economy, we have a number of historical challenges that have had a negative impact on the region. For example, we can look at the area south of the 104 highway and see the impact of the decline in the coal industry in Joggins and Spring Hill and in different communities. We've had outmigration and a declining population, and the retail industry has faced challenges with our close proximity to Moncton and then also online marketing these days. So when we look at the current business climate, we've already discussed the impact COVID has had on the retail and tourism sector. The forestry sector, as we said, has been in crisis, and for a number of years, the blueberry industry has been had a series of challenges that they've faced. We have some positive impacts in our current business climate. We have increased immigration now. We have increasing blueberry prices. We have more people moving to the area. In 2020, Nova Scotia saw an increase in population in every single county, which is the first time in probably 40 years that that has happened. One of the challenges that we do have in our business is that we have a lot of the decision-making about rural economic development is greatly influenced by Halifax, and oftentimes people in those areas that may be more vocal do not have a correct understanding of the economy. And so whether it is the forestry, fishing, agriculture, or many of our natural resource industries, there's maybe a unrealistic expectation of the number of jobs that are supported. The key sectors in our economy is the manufacturing sector, natural resource sector, distribution and warehousing is significant. And we have Amherst as a regional retail and service center, and the smaller communities throughout the region as more local service centers. With the impact of COVID, we have had, we've mentioned the border issues. but we've also had positive impacts. There's been the increasing demand for food and food processing, which is one of our largest manufacturing sectors here. And we've also saw the population growth. When we look at the economic goals and objectives, under business retention expansion, we've already talked about the business accelerator program we have. We're bringing on a succession planning workshop with Acadia Entrepreneurship Center, and we are looking at productivity improvements and how we can support productivity growth of our businesses. For business attraction, we want to do a business mix analysis. You'll see that in our more in-depth strategic plan. And what we are wanting to do there is see what businesses or services are we missing that would, by adding them, would have a complete, a more complete offering. So for example, in a small rural community, if a gas station was closed, there's a massive gap in that community because when people go further away for gas, they also go further away for their groceries and everything else. One of the first steps that we're going to do under this is we are talking to manufacturers. We want to identify supply chain difficulties, which are very significant due to COVID. And we are wanting to look and see if we can do matches to other businesses that can supply those particular subcomponents so that we can keep our supply chain functioning and create new business for local manufacturers. The distribution and warehouse sector is a sector that we have significant opportunity in. Colchester is much stronger on this. And Moncton is much stronger on this. We are in the same transportation corridor. We're in the center of the Maritimes, and we already have Gordon Food Services here, Maritime Pride Eggs, Staples. We have more opportunity to bring those type of businesses to the region. When we're creating a job-ready workforce, one of the things that we need to do is to continue to build those bridges between the schools and the business community, but also a new and emerging issue is the housing needs. As we bring more people in here, where there has not been a lot of home construction in the past 30 years, this is going to become a barrier if we can't increase the supply to match that demand. So I'd like to turn this back over to Tamara.
Population. The Cumberland region has had a slow decline in population for the past 20 years. This is a concern for many reasons with significant impacts on the local and regional economy. As the customer base shrinks, businesses become more dependent on export sales and visitor spending. New businesses are less likely to start up or survive. A shrinking and aging population paired with low labor force participation and declining unemployment rates leaves employers having difficulty filling vacant job positions. Population goals and objectives. Economic development efforts can offset the negative effects of the shrinking and aging population by focusing on increasing the population of working age people, attracting new people, and increasing revenue from tourism. Our goal in this section is to increase the population of the Cumberland region with a significant focus on working age families. Our people attraction objectives include creating a place where people want to live, work, and play by investing in initiatives such as development and promotion of major attractions, community amenities, events, active transportation, culture and recreation opportunities, shopping, dining, and entertainment. To do this, attracting people back to the region who have moved away, attracting remote workers along with their families, and working with local realtors to promote relocating is also a priority. Some factors in the tourism strategy will also be a link to the population recruitment with an emphasis on quality of life. Supporting the Cumberland Y-Reach program and Immigrant Services of Nova Scotia and developing an immigrant recruitment and retention program will also contribute to attracting new immigrants to the area. Please note that some of the goals mentioned in the economy section and the quality of life section will also contribute to population growth for the Cumberland region. Now I'll pass it over to Michelle to talk about the quality of life section.
Thanks, Tamara. Ultimately, quality of life refers to the level of health, comfort, and happiness experienced by an individual or a group. This can range from access to necessities to driving on a smooth road with no potholes, to having recreation opportunities, to having access to a library. It can range to almost anything that someone thinks contributes to their happiness or their ability to live a better life. In recent years, quality of life has emerged as a critical factor in people's decision to live and work in a community. At times, businesses are even now choosing their locations with quality of life in mind, knowing that ultimately quality of life contributes back to their ability to recruit and retain their staff members. The province of Nova Scotia, in collaboration with many municipalities and Engage Nova Scotia, developed and administered a quality of life survey. The survey was completed prior to COVID and prior to the forestry industry crisis. So the results of the survey really provide a great baseline for us for measuring our quality of life goals and objectives that we'll undertake. Luckily, Cumberland is one of the specific regions that the province reported on with their quality of life survey. So we have data that is actually specific to our region, which, as many of us know, is rare for the Cumberland region. The province intends to do a follow-up quality of life survey on a regular basis to monitor changes throughout the province. So that is kind of a built-in measurement tool to measure what our success on this pillar. I think I mentioned earlier that quality of life really has a number of different facets. Obviously, we can't pursue all of them. So for this strategy, we really chose to focus on the health of our residents, living standards, placemaking, and community infrastructure and access to technology. So our quality of life goals and objectives. Our first goal relates to increasing the overall health and living standards of our residents. So according to the Government of Canada, the #1 indicator of a person's health is actually their income level. So for this reason, we strategically set a goal with actions to focus on increasing the median household income in Cumberland County. We will also focus on supporting the efforts of the Health Authority and the Joint Physician Recruitment Committee to work towards adequate access to healthcare professionals, including specialists. And finally, related to increasing income levels to support an increase in overall health of our residents, we'll focus on actions to decrease the percentage of people living in poverty in the Cumberland region. Our second goal related to quality of life is to develop community infrastructure to meet the needs of residents to improve their quality of life. So we included this goal to ensure communities in the Cumberland region are competitive in terms of retaining our residents and attracting new residents. For the town of Amherst, this will include supporting the review of community infrastructure and providing recommendations to maintain and enhance their infrastructure. For the town of Oxford, this will include working through a strategic and comprehensive asset management plan to address infrastructure needs within the community. And for the municipality of Cumberland, it will include defining our service levels in terms of community infrastructure, support and encouragement for the development of community centers throughout the municipality, and working with the library to provide safe and reliable space for the libraries throughout the region. Our third goal for quality of life is to implement projects and strategies that align with the principles of placemaking. To achieve this goal, we outlined actions that include implementing strategies that will enhance sense of place in our communities and to support placemaking initiatives. Our fourth and final quality of life goal is to increase access to technology throughout Cumberland. To accomplish this goal, we outlined actions that focus on improving access to high-speed internet, as well as an action to develop a plan that will address our lack of cell phone coverage. It's worth noting here that the municipality and our partners are on track for Xplornet to have the capacity to service all households and businesses in Cumberland and Colchester with actual high-speed internet by late 2022. Also, just to clarify the point on cell phone coverage, the strategy includes an action to develop a plan that would address the lack of cell phone coverage. It doesn't actually include taking action on this yet. We'll have quite a bit of learning to do internally to determine how we might be engaged in the cell phone coverage file before making recommendations and developing actions to resolve the lack of cell phone coverage. So for the community capacity piece, community capacity encompasses the initial 3 pillars of the CED strategy at a community specific level. So we'll focus our efforts on this section on working with individual communities to create strategies that will impact business development, population growth, and increased quality of life in much greater detail. The local strategies will account for community-specific opportunities and establish strategies that will help the communities overcome their own unique challenges within their community. Ultimately, we hope these strategies will be, for the most part, community economic development strategies that each community can take ownership of, and they can implement initiatives largely on their own with some support from municipal staff. The municipality of Cumberland received funding following the dissolutions of the former towns of Spring Hill and Parsboro through the letter of intent to develop economic development strategies for Spring Hill and Parsboro. We used that funding to hire consultants, and we were able to complete these strategies late 2020. Using a similar framework to that was used for the first 2 strategies, We plan to work with communities throughout Cumberland to build community capacity and develop community-specific plans, mostly based on the schedule shown on the screen. I'll touch on implementation quickly before passing things back to Tamara. So our CED strategy includes implementation tables for each pillar at the end of the strategy. We've provided the implementation table for the population pillar on the screen here. The implementation table primarily outlines which organization, or in some cases organizations, that will take the lead on each initiative. If you look at the table as a whole, and even all of the tables that are in the strategy, you'll really begin to get a strong sense of each organization's priorities and strengths for implementing the strategy and where we kind of lie within the whole sphere of community economic development. We've also included which organizations will be supporting each of the initiatives. This exercise helps to make sure that we all continue to work on the same goals and in the same direction without duplicating any of the work of another organization. Not all of these things will happen at once. We'll work towards developing timelines and annual work plans following approval of the strategy. And then a quick high-level overview of some key takeaways from today. So coming back to the high-level overview of the 4 pillars, we wanted to take a moment to cover our key takeaways for today. Ultimately, we've developed our CED strategy to focus on growing our region's economy. To do this, we're suggesting a balanced approach between the 4 pillars that will see us supporting our businesses and attracting appropriate new investment, concentrating on growing our population, focusing on improving the quality of life within our communities, and building the capacity of individual communities throughout the Cumberland region. At the end of the day, we hope this strategy will help us take better advantage of our existing strengths while strategically addressing our challenges. Finally, we expect this to be accomplished over a 5-year period. Back to you, Tamara.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation for this evening. In the next couple of days, we will send out a short survey to gather council's feedback. Once you have had time to review this full strategy, we are looking for you to confirm if we're on the right path, in the right direction. Have we missed something significant that we should include? Or have you any other feedback that you'd like to provide? As I mentioned at the first, this is a draft. We will be looking further to adapt it. Once all the feedback is received, we will compile all of the responses and review it with our senior management team to determine the next steps. We're happy to answer any questions that anyone may have today.
Thank you very much. An excellent presentation. Deputy Mayor Davidson, is your hand up from before, or do you have a question?
Question.
Then you go ahead, followed by Councillor Fothrop.
Thank you very much. Once again, another excellent presentation. I could go on at length for accolades for all the presentations, but I don't want to take away from people's questions, but it goes without saying, this is great stuff. My question is specific to the population, and it's a goal that we all embrace, is the increasing the population, people attraction. Do we have any initial information from our COVID-assisted population increase? There's a lot of anecdotal information out there that, and I'm sure Councillor Gilroy can speak to it. There's very few homes for sale now. There's the building industry is being pushed to the limits of trying to prepare for houses that are going to be built and multi-unit houses that are going to be built. Do we have any indication as to what the numbers have looked like over the last year? Because all anecdotal information will say our population is on the rise. And I don't know a lot of people that want to leave here at this time, but in any event, is there any initial information on that?
I guess I'll take a stab at that. There is information. We don't have it yet, but one of the things, the tax at the end of the year when people fill their income tax out and stuff, their place of residence is noted on that. And I believe that is information that we could probably get from the Provincial Department of Finance. But I will look and see if we can find that information out. I do know I was on a call a few weeks ago and Deputy Minister of Business at the time, Bernie Miller, had made the comment that every county had seen an increase and he wasn't just guessing. So I will see if we can get that information.
I believe too, it's calculated every June, the end of June. So I would say we'll know in a few months. We'll be able to get some accurate numbers.
Next, I see Councillor Fothrop.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Two questions. First, of course, the big economic news today is that Loblaws is selling Weston Bakeries. Does that impact our local Weston's Bakery? And if so, what role do you see economic development and the business connector taking in that as a community response?
I haven't heard anything. Have you, Jonathan?
I haven't heard anything about that. Thanks for the information. Within Weston Bakeries, this plant in Amherst has the lowest downtime and it has the lowest waste of any of their plants in the country. So I think they would probably be in a good position if there was to be consolidation. One of the reasons they located here was the quality of the water supply in Amherst. And they are able to do a multitude of small runs. So they can do 20 different varieties of hot dog buns for a different company, and that's a different company. So they're an expert at doing small production for the Atlantic market. So my guess would be it's probably not a concern here, but it's worth us following up.
Yeah, it's just as a backup on that. It was the lead news on CBC today. Loblaws did a study of its various units and decided that the bakery part of it was not a part that they needed to focus on. They needed to focus more on their grocery stores. So they have put the bakeries up for sale. And the other question is you're talking about trying to attract university graduates or international graduates, that sort of thing. But one of the key ways, I think, is to support programs where, I had the word a minute ago, co-op programs, because the students then go out and work in a community, as you know. So are we actively pursuing that in our business community?
I know the province is very big on supporting co-op placements and subsidizing them. And I know that last year that they had over 100 more placements through that program than before. Specifically to this county, I don't know. I do know that some of our manufacturers have been able to tap into Cape Breton University's very large international student population to meet some of their job needs. And so they are being very creative because they need to be.
Good, thanks very much.
And the Connector program.
Yes, and we do have a Connector program. Thank you, Tamara. Ourselves and Truro Colchester Partnership in Pictou have a gentleman who works connecting recent graduates or people returning or immigrating to the area with experienced business mentors to help them build a network within their field of study.
All right, thank you. And next I see Councillor Christie.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of things came to mind, and I just jotted some rough notes down. Michelle, during your portion of the presentation on the quality of life, you mentioned a couple of things such as the poverty reduction strategy, which kind of ties into our next presentation, which I'm glad to see that there's some sort of continuity between all of the groups as to what that might entail. But also, was there any thought given to mental health or mental health awareness as far as, doing something from a medical perspective as well, so that ties into the poverty reduction strategies on a joint level between everybody? And I made note of when you were talking through kind of the rollout section, you had the MPS review under Amherst, and I'm glad to see that, so that we're kind of dialed in with you guys as far as if there's any hindering things that might be to businesses as you see as going forward. And I guess the last part of my comments were just when we were talking about attracting new immigrants, you listed some stakeholders such as Y-Reach and those kinds of things. Have you had some sort of one-on-one meetings with those people? You've had some meetings with the stakeholders. I just wanted to see where we're at in that process. So if you kind of touch on a few of those things, I'd appreciate it.
As far as immigration, so I have met with our Cumberland Y-Reach coordinator a few times. So she shared some information with me, some challenges that she sees that immigrants notice with their first few months within coming to this area. One of them, as far as just communication and getting to know the area, making business contacts as far as how to find a contractor, how to find someone to shovel a driveway or mow a lawn, those kind of things. So that relates back to our business directory that we have that I keep up to date online, and Jonathan has the Cumberland directory. And also I'm working on a welcome package. So I have all the information together. Our marketing coordinators just kind of putting together the design of it. And that's going to be used. It will be online as well as a printed copy. And that will be not only for immigrants, but for any newcomers. And it covers everything from if you're new to Canada, new to Nova Scotia, how to get a license, realtor, buying a home information, insurance, all those sorts of things. Not just here's a list of businesses kind of thing. So that's information that I gathered from working with Y-Reach, and those are things that those people are looking for. Another thing, I've been in touch with NSOI, Nova Scotia Office of Immigration, a few times. I've worked with their coordinator, so I have some information about their programming that they have. Just a couple of weeks ago, we held an immigration workshop under our Mind Your Business workshop with our group, our community partners. And we had, was it 6 businesses total, as well as a few other people attended. I think there was 13 in total. So we had a list of panelists. Nova Scotia Office of Immigration was on there as well, talking about their Atlantic AIPP program. It's Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, and a few other things that are available as well. So we are trying to get that information out there, and we have made contacts for sure.
Great. And then I'll just pick up on the mental health piece there. I think once you've had a chance to review the full strategy, we did identify a few pieces, things like mental health, social services, addictions, that sort of thing that we kind of suggested in strategy, that there are groups out there that are owning those spheres, and that we didn't want to step on their toes and try to duplicate any of those efforts. And we really don't have those expertise to deal with those types of things. However, that being said, some of the components within our strategy will contribute to improved mental health. So when we think about access to recreation, outdoor spaces, green spaces, trails, that sort of thing, which a lot of that type of stuff is included in our plan, those types of things, as we all know, can contribute to a healthier mental health. But we really didn't want to get involved in trying to be medical experts in any way, because we're not.
Very good. Councillor Baker, I see you're up next.
Great track here. Sorry about that. Great presentation. I think you're on the right track. I've seen more information here tonight and what I read this afternoon that I've seen for years. But we have so much to offer here. Beautiful schools, great hospital, Oxford County, Parsbro, Amherst, and we have so many things that we offer. But you know, I've talked to the real estate offices lately, and I know one lady personally, and Rod's like you on the line too, has sold 110 houses, she said. But it's great to see people coming this way. For years, we've seen people going that way. So I think we're on the right track. I think we got so much to offer, and I think you're doing the right thing. And I think you get more information back. I think it's great. A comment on Weston Bakeries. I'm glad you brought that, because a few years ago, Greg, I think we got a letter from Weston Bakeries to the mayor or something saying that the Weston Bakeries in Amherst was the #1 bakery in their whole system. and they've taken people from here to the other bakeries to show them how to run a bakery. So that makes you feel proud living in Cumberland County and Amherst, knowing our people is number one in their notch out of 129 bakeries. And that's something to put on your hat, right? But what we're looking for is younger people, like you say, coming back to our community, because we got service clubs here that offer, but our service clubs are going to suffer because people are getting older and older and they're retiring. Nobody's getting in because young people work all day. They got to go home with their families. Some of us work all the time, but some people want some time to themselves, right? But I think that you're going the right track. I think you're hitting the people. The seniors is what built our community, but we have those young people come back to our community. But I think you're on the right track. Great job.
Thank you very much for those positive comments. Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to piggyback on that, I did enjoy all the sessions tonight and got some great information on that as well. But just as a comment to Mr. Fothrop's question about co-op, I am involved at the Amherst High School. I teach in the Skills Trade Center there, and we have a number of co-op programs at the school. We have a career exploration program that does a co-op each year with all three there. It's a 3-year program, 10, 11, and 12. They all have a co-op component and get a co-op credit in that, as well as we have a co-op program taught at the school. It's open to any high school student that goes. So we have at least one section of that each semester, depending on the interest. And as far as the skills trade goes, I've been involved in a youth apprenticeship program that's sponsored by the province. Although we were all set to go, it's a summer program where we were all set to go last year. I had some students involved and it got canceled. And one of the problems we're having with the program right now, obviously, is with COVID. A lot of businesses are a little more reluctant. They've got different rules going and trying to manage their own situation, let alone add more to it. But one of the other problems we're having with school students is that most of these programs are run strictly between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And a lot of businesses, it restricts us to the retail sector. It's hard to get into a lot of businesses, especially trades, getting them to go out with tradespeople because they're on the road in the morning and they're not bound to be back in Amherst, so that students catch bus or whatever, be back by 3 o'clock. So that is a concern and something that's hard for really to expose some of them opportunities to the students in the school. And that's one of the struggles we've had throughout. And I know other schools in Cumberland County offer co-op programs, not to the extent I'm not 100% familiar with that.
Just to comment on Fred's comments about the co-op program. Myself and Jonathan's group were working on a co-op program last January, February to roll out in the spring called Industrial Athletes. And it was to connect grade 11, 12 students with manufacturing companies. So to introduce them in the spring, hoping that they will work for the summer, or if they're graduating, eventually stay on full time. So we did have a couple of manufacturing companies that were interested in doing that. They were going to provide all the training, and then COVID hit, so it kind of got canceled. So we're looking at re-looking into that as well. One other thing that we're working on together with the Connector is a Pitch Yourself competition for grade 10, 11 students. It will be coming out next month. So that is, I designed it so that it's for grade 10, 11 students to do a 60-second video of themselves of why an employer should hire them. So they pitch themselves in a video. So with that age group, they can do a TikTok video, a YouTube video, however they like. And then we're going to do have a panel of judges, pick some winners, and then do have a top 3 prizes. So, and we're also going to provide like job searching skills, basic job searching skills as far as resumes, cover letters, employer information, things like that. So.
Thank you all. I think we need to move on to our next item on the agenda. So this is the discussion of proposed joint poverty reduction committee. And I'm going to let Mr. Harrott, CAO of Amherst, lead the discussion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, we had a draw backstage, and Allie had got the short straw. So I think Ally's going to present it, and I'll chime in, and I think that's what we agreed upon.
Yes, that's what we agreed. Yes, thank you. All right, so I will speak to the new Joint Poverty Reduction Advisory Committee. So at the request of the municipality of the County of Cumberland's Council, staff at the municipality and the town of Amherst have been discussing the possibility of creating an intermunicipal poverty reduction advisory committee. And the purpose of this committee would be to advise the councils of the two towns and the municipality on strategies and measures that could be taken to reduce poverty within the Cumberland region. So staff have looked at the terms of reference of similar committees in other areas, and we would suggest that a committee made up of councillors from all three units, as well as representatives from community organizations and other agencies, that would be the composition of this new committee. So the goal of the committee would be to help the municipalities take action aimed at breaking the cycle of poverty in our communities. It would address various aspects of poverty reduction, including affordable housing, food security, and transportation. So we're seeking direction from the councils this evening as to whether there is any interest in creating this committee. And if there is an interest, we'd be recommending that we create an ad hoc committee with the sole purpose of creating a terms of reference for a joint poverty reduction advisory committee. So this ad hoc committee would consist of one councillor from each municipality, as well as any staffing resources as necessary. And the ad hoc committee would then present the terms of reference, including the proposed membership, back to a future joint council meeting. Clear as mud, I'm sure, right? So ultimately for tonight, what we're looking to see is if there is interest from the councils in moving forward and forming this new joint poverty reduction committee. And if there is interest, the first step on this in this would be for us to create an ad hoc committee that would be tasked with creating a terms of reference.
Your worship, if I could just add to that, I think fair to say town of Amherst has identified poverty as one of its priority items. Successive councils have. I think it's also fair to say, though, that we've sort of struggled with the terms of reference and struggled with the purpose of the committee and what are the most important things that we could work on. And so I think perhaps working together, there's a possibility to broaden that a bit, another perspective, and to identify the buckets, if you will, of items to be worked on. I think it's fair to say as well, just because there's municipal boundaries doesn't mean that poverty stops here and starts there. And I think there's a fairly wide community, and including more folks would be helpful. And so really, we just wanted to bring it forward. We had an interest, I think, I'm not sure if Steve on the call tonight. Yeah, Steve Ferguson's on the call tonight. And he and I had initially had a conversation about a couple of things, and this was one of the things that came up. And so we've just kind of taken it from there. And as Ally said, I'm going to bring it forward and see whether there's any interest in part of the councils. And if there is, move forward with it. So thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ally.
Thank you very much. So we'll open the floor to some questions or comments. Please try to be succinct, and there'll be a lot of people want to say something. So please get your points out quickly. And in order, I first see Councillor Fothrop.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Start off with a historical note. 1890, the first council in Amherst, they formed a poverty committee with Cumberland County in 1890. Councillors Fage, Reed, are those names familiar to you? And Fillmore were appointed to that first poverty committee in 1890. So the problem has not gone away. It's, I think, even more crucial now than it was 130 years ago. When I see what went on during COVID with the YMCA providing meals, the library providing meals, after the bell, the work they do there, the list goes on. Yes, I as a councillor from Amherst, fully support the development of a poverty committee.
Thank you very much. Next, I see Councillor Landry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can certainly attest to the struggles of trying to develop the terms of reference. It's very difficult as a lot of the community stakeholders that are involved in this work don't really adhere to municipal boundaries. And so trying to figure out a way to engage with them can create some barriers. And so I think having an intermunicipal committee is the solution to that particular barrier. And as Greg mentioned, that poverty doesn't respect boundaries either. So I think this is something that we should all support, and I certainly do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I see Councillor Jennifer Hotelling, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say that I'm interested in this committee and I support the idea fully. The housing crisis that is across the country is the main reason that I would be interested, and that would be a top priority for myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sheila Christie.
Thank you, Your Worship. I share the sentiments of Councillor Landry, having been the chair of the Poverty Reduction Committee here in Amherst for the last, prior to this council, 4 years. It was always a struggle trying to find the balance between spending town taxpayer money in Amherst outside of the boundaries, and people who are on these committees, several of them are working with county residents as well as town residents, and such as the tourism, we have to start looking at things as a regional approach. And I really think that, as we said earlier, boundaries are not there when we're talking for poverty and other things. So I'm in full support of this, and I really think it's long overdue. And I would be willing to help out Councillor Landry or other people that are going to be on this committee, because there are a lot of ideas that have come forward in the past that we couldn't move forward with just because the boundaries that were in existence. So I'm very glad to see this and positive approach for us, all three of us, moving forward.
Thank you for that. And I see Mayor Scott's hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Colgan. And I guess I would agree with all the statements and issues and concerns that have been shared here tonight. In my former life as a police officer, I mean, I've watched as poverty had such a negative impact on our society and families, and it's so important. So affordable housing, poverty reduction, whatever we can do collectively as a community is so important. Councillor Hotelling, I know from day one has shown a real concern and care for all these issues. And I'm glad she spoke before I did, because I was actually going to suggest that she would be a tremendous asset to a committee like this. Councillor Hotelling's offered herself up, and I think the municipality would be more than willing to take part in this project. And Councillor Hotelling's willing to be, I'm sure the rest of council would agree for her to be our representative for that on that group. Anyway, thank you. Thanks for Councillor Hotelling.
Thank you very much. And I see Mayor Henley.
Thank you. It's a very informative discussion, and like the other two mayors, I agree we should be involved in this. I'm not sure what we can do, but we've got to at least try. I know I was discussing with our acting town clerk the other day the state of the homelessness we are experiencing in Oxford, and she expressed some concern regarding all the couch surfing that she's aware of. So yes, we'll get on board with this as well.
Well, I think consensus is pretty clear here, Ali and Greg, and there's obviously recognition that there is a need and a willingness to cooperate and collaborate and be regional. What would you propose as the next step in trying to form some kind of an ad hoc committee then that you've proposed? Mr. Harrod.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Really it's a council's pleasure, but if we, follow perhaps custom, I guess that each of the councils can go away and appoint one of a representative. I think there's some initial work to do in terms of reference, and then we would do for another conversation amongst the council. So certainly it's not all of the work being done up front, but just a little bit of upfront work to generate terms of reference for discussion and bring it back. So we'd be looking to each of the councils within the next, at their next meeting, perhaps appoint someone, and Ally and I would try to pull those folks together and some staff people and just have a chat. We have some examples of terms of reference. I think it's just a matter of agreeing on some basic concepts and then trying to move forward. So that's what I think our next steps would be, Your Worship. Ally, you have anything to add to that?
All right, then. That sounds like we have a plan to move forward with that. If anyone has any final comments they'd like to make, if not, I would seek a motion to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Landry and Councillor Gould. Any objections? Then I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. And for those who have